Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to All Star Weddings and Studios. My name is Jeremy, the owner, and with us today is Shelby, one of our photographers. We're going to be talking with Shelby in just a moment, but I just want to talk with you. We've had some interviews with some of our DJs. We've talked of the key points and key factors with All Star, but now it's time to really get into photography for a wedding. And there's nobody better to do it than you, Shelby, as a professional wedding photographer. So thank you very much for coming on the show.
Thank you.
Absolutely. So here's what I want to know. You have been a photographer for quite a while. Tell me, how long have you been doing this?
Just about 15 years.
Okay, all right. So what made you get into it?
Art.
Tell me more.
So I am an artist and I like to paint. And a lot of times I would take photos just to capture a scene so I can then paint it. The other reason why I got into photography is just capturing moments. Yeah. My mom died when I was young. And I realized after she had died, I was going through to look for photos just to remember, because a photo is a memory.
Sure.
And I didn't really have a lot of them. So that was really important to me, capturing moments. And then I just kind of kept building on it.
Yeah.
And then now it's about capturing others, other people moments.
Yeah. So it seems to me when you say that you almost, it's like your mom inspired you to want to capture life even more at such a young loss. So I'm sorry for such a young loss, but it sounds like you've turned that into a positive where now it's not only your career, but you can kind of think back on your mom and how she kind of got this going. Would that be accurate?
Yes. Yep. It's always about the little things. And I think a lot of times in, anyone's life, if you don't have your eyes open, that moment just goes.
Yeah.
Or it could be something simple where, like a wedding day. With all the hype and everything going on, the couple is experiencing so many different moments. And, by having those photos really capture it, it brings them back to it where they may not have had a great memory of every single detail. Well, now they do, right? Because you just filled in all those gaps. And the good thing about photos is when you see it, then that memory, it's instantly, there. It brings you right back to it. So to me, that's important.
Right.
And I think my mother, having that all happen, that's why it matters to me. And that's probably why it's my number one of importance, right? So you don't just capture just all the big stuff. You want to do the big stuff, but you also want to get everything that's the in-betweens and candids. It could be a moment between, let's say, the bride and her grandfather, and that, well, for example, I had a wedding and it was with two brides. And unfortunately, one of the brides, I think it was her stepdad or her dad, he couldn't make the wedding. So they had him on a Zoom set up with a camera phone, like he was on the, just on a camera through the phone. And they were basically, he could see everything that was happening and yet they could see him. Well, after the ceremony, I, of course, got shots of that, of him on the phone, which was really cool. Yeah. And he was smiling. He was, just so proud of his daughter. And then when I come out of the ceremony, I'm watching for the brides and they come out and all of a sudden I see them hold up this phone. Now I went around the back of them and I was like, oh, wow, perfect. It's both of them talking, to this very special person. Wow. I mean, she was devastated because he couldn't make it.
Sure.
So the fact that she was even able to talk to him on the phone at that point, because he's very, very sick, was amazing. Well, I happened to get a perfect shot right between, you could see the outline of their heads and then him. And that was one of their sneak peeks. And she actually ended up calling me and she's like, you have no idea. She's like, I never even knew you were there. And she's like, that one photo meant everything. She's like, you obviously all the other sneak peeks, everything was gorgeous, but that one photo, she's like, I would have never dreamed like anybody would have seen that even happen. And it meant everything to her. Unfortunately, her dad did pass away. So like that, but that's a memory now. Like
she has it forever.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's what's important. It's honoring that because you don't know what's special to them. So it's really hearing your client, paying attention to everything that they tell you, like likes, dislike, what's important as far as who the people are that are important to them. And then you put it all together. And that's what, a photographer does. You go into this big day and you look for all those things. And then you try to put them all together, everything that they've told you, you put it together in a story. And that's what they get. And if at the end of the day they can look at, their wedding album and it is a story, right? It's not just them getting married. It's actually about all their loved ones too that are with them,
Yep,
celebrating
sure.
that day with them that are extremely happy. Like you could take group photos, for instance, and have some of the guests, okay, well now you got to give me something that the bride and the groom, or the bride and the bride, or the groom and the groom's going to see later. And then so they go back to those photos and it's a surprise, right? And they get to see their guests. They didn't know they were doing this, but they have whatever, pose however they want to, make funny faces. That all matters. That's essentially what I think is important. That's what I try to do.
Wow. Yeah. And I think it was so unique that you were able to, it's almost like you took that artistic part that we opened with, in even that scene with the father and the phone. It was, you knew it, you saw it and you realized it, but you shot it at such a distance in the right way that you never got in the middle of what that was for them. And so you were able to be a wedding photographer that is really there, but not there, right? We talk about this all the time on our meetings, right? So that's amazing. And then just what you just unfolded with on all these, like creating the whole day, but it sounds like you kind of go in with a open mind, but you've kind of done your pre-work, right? It sounds like you really get to know your couples ahead of time.
You have to, and that's a big thing, and I believe in that. It would be too hard to, let's say, you just kind of meet your couple for 15 minutes and then, okay, put the timeline together and that's it.
Yeah.
Not the same.
For sure.
I always tell clients, like, expect that your timeline chat is going to be an hour to 2 hours long. And I mean it every single time, because I am literally not only going through everything in that timeline, I'm asking you questions. I'm asking, okay, so is there things that of importance, like people of importance? What do you like? How do you want these photos to look? Like any photographer can take formals. I could do it all day long.
Yeah.
Pose you. I could, whoever you want in the photo, I could put them there and make sure everybody looks perfect. Yeah. But what about everything else? So that's important to find out. Okay, what are you looking for? There could be, sometimes there's something simple, like I had a bride that really wanted her grandmother coming in, like going down the aisle. That was so important to her because she was very close to her, right? Yep. But then she also, right before that, she had wanted the first looks with her grandmother. Like that was very important. It's finding out what's important to them, but then actually listening. I think sometimes not every photographer will listen, right? Yep. That's truly what makes your work stand out and make a difference for them. Yeah. Well, I should say listening and applying.
Right. There could be a big difference.
I have notes. Yeah. So like So their timelines.
I could talk about my McDonald's order applying. Yeah, but keep going.
Yeah. Their timeline, their notes, their inspiration photos. So I get an idea of what they're looking for. I have that on me as a hard copy the whole time, right? I'm constantly looking through it. I'm constantly checking the times. I'm, just making sure that basically anything I can do to help their day go better, it's going to go better.
It's like your manual for the day, being sure.
It really is though, but it's important to check it. It's important to always, follow through. All that information that they're giving me, all I want to do is basically take it and make it the best that it can be, the best product. Because at the end of the day, photography is still a product, right? You're delivering something. Yeah. So the quality needs to be high, so does the content.
Sure.
It just can't be this fluff piece.
Nope.
This is, in most people's lives, that's the one day of their life that is truly special. Yep. Make it worth it, because it is to them. So I think acknowledging that too.
Yeah. I talk about it.
Taking it seriously is important.
Yeah. That I'm on a meeting and actually one of our videos talks about it. It's like shy of the birth of a child. This is the biggest day of their life.
It is.
And we cannot come up short, right? Like
no.
It's really from the time we're getting to know them through the interviewing process, all the way to taking your manual notes that you talked about to carry around to producing, right? Getting that final product in their hands and letting them get excited to relive it all over again.
Yeah, that's the thing too, is you want them to be excited. I always worry. The biggest thing that I think I tell any client that I've ever had is, I don't want you stressed. And that's a big deal to me. Plenty of people can tell you, like, I want them to leave that at the door. I want you to really enjoy your moment. Don't be worried about anything else. If there's something that that you're worried about, just tell me. Tell me.
Yep.
Let me handle it, right?
Yeah.
It's like you're the bodyguard and the therapist and the photographer. Like whatever you need to be, you need to do it right in that moment. Why? Because tension and someone who is not feeling comfortable, it's going to show in your jaw. It's going to show in your shoulders, right? Your body language. I don't want that. I really want them to enjoy their day. Yeah. It's not about anybody else. It's about them. So being understanding of that and, comfortable with them, so they can be comfortable with you.
Yeah.
That helps them play out their story.
Yeah.
That's important. Not being invasive. Yes, I can get in there and I'm going to pose you, sure, for the formals and whatnot. But at the end of the day, I'm not going to be in their face. I'm not going to be, well, can I just have you do this? No.
So let's go back over that a moment. So
sure.
Just a moment ago, you mentioned about not being invasive and setting up them for success in their photo without being all on. So how do you go about doing that? Like on such a regular basis, like wedding day, it's such a high intensity, it's going. How do you set up without being invasive?
That goes right back to the timeline. That goes back to knowing your couple. There could be some brides that, or actually anybody really, that they're very uncomfortable in front of a camera. I am. Very much so. I don't like it. So I understand, right? So it's about just being human and understanding those feelings. And then when you can relate, then you know how to approach it. So approach is everything. The information you're getting is everything. Remember it and use it, right? So if somebody is less comfortable in the camera, I am not going to approach them the same that I would somebody that definitely is loving the posing.
Right.
And, you could pose them all day long and it's great. And if they're comfortable with that, great. If not, I'm going to go about it in a completely different manner, which is like a lot of times I'll do, it's just action posing. So basically, if you have somebody that is not comfortable, instead of posing them like this, you're going to have them, let's say, twirl, have one person twirl the other. Then you catch that beautiful moment that happens as a result, right? I actually love those more because it's authentic, it's real, it's very genuine, and it looks it. I almost always prefer those over a posy pose. Yeah. Again, I'll do it, but
it makes sense.
It's always about listening and remembering all the information, and then you bring it forward.
Yeah.
And just being human, being relatable, right?
For sure.
I am nobody but myself.
Yep. That's exactly.
I am very quirky, as I tell everybody. Very. But I take what I do so seriously. Like, it is very serious to me. It's very important to me.
Yeah.
Because I look at it always underneath everything. It ultimately goes back to being that, 19-year-old looking for photos of my mother with me.
Yes.
And not finding them.
Yeah, for sure.
And I think that is probably the one driver of how I approach things.
Now, Shelby, I got something that you've been doing that it wasn't really the plan today. So I'm going to tell the producers there's going to be pauses between some of my next several questions that you can continue to film in. But you're giving us so many great details that there's going to be times where we're going to want to just use those pieces to be able to educate our clients, other photographers. I want it to be helpful. So if there's a moment in between my questions, it's just really to kind of set up the next scene per se, because you've just been giving us such great information.
Sorry.
So thank you. And I know you did, it's been great. And I know you didn't really want to come on camera today. It's not your thing. You like to be on the other side of things. But I think the information you're giving is just so helpful. So why don't we pivot to that next thing? There's so many of our couples that I'll get on a consultation with, and they're excited to plan their wedding, but they're like deathly worried that, well, I don't like this angle, I don't like this, or I don't really like my profile, or I'm not really comfortable with the camera, or there's all these things that you're quite used to, right? Those are the common things that you hear. But how do you then, how do you almost pre-plan for that so that there's, like you talked about a couple minutes ago, so the question is, how do you adjust to each client's unique nerves, all the little things that make them happy to be in front of the camera when they're already nervous? How do you disarm them?
So number one, I am very blunt So I will ask, how are you in front of the camera? How do you feel?
Yep.
And I just want to know outright, right? I am huge on, especially females, body positive
Yep.
and feeling beautiful.
Yep.
In general, I want that for everybody, though.
Sure.
It doesn't matter if female or male. I think based on that and their reaction and what they're telling me is how I approach them, right?
Yeah.
I am a huge believer in giving compliments.
Sure.
And they're always sincere.
Yeah.
Right? Like I will not I don't even know how to say that. If I say a compliment, I really truly mean it.
Right. You're not into fluff. You're not fluffing
No, I'm
people.
really not.
Yeah.
So, and I think that just again, being able to relate to them.
Yeah.
And they sense it, you're able to then work with them easier. I don't know if that makes sense.
No, that was great. And that did answer the question, because I've brought you on to many of our meetings, right? Like I brought you on to so many client consultations, and I open most of our meetings with the client before I even bring anybody else on. And I tell them how blunt and direct we are, but we're also sincere and like we're transparent. Well, I think that I've noticed over the years that you're the same. You're not holding back, right? You're talking with them, you're having a conversation with them, but you truly are befriending them right away because you truly genuinely like people. It seems like you're really into people.
I am. And I think everybody's unique. And so for me, as a photographer,
yes,
every story is different, which means that's new for me. As a photographer, as an artist, I love that, right? I want the new stuff. Nobody is alike. Every single client that I have ever had has never been, there's no one size fits all. It's every single one has had their unique story.
Sure.
So it's almost like you meet this new client and you're unfolding that new story again. And it's completely different. So I look forward to that.
Yeah.
I look forward to meeting
I can
new
see
people.
it. You're glowing saying
Yeah.
it. Like
you're
like
not
excited.
Only that, when you put two people together, that's different, right?
Yeah.
So nobody has the same love story. They all react differently. They are all different with each other. And it's fascinating to me. Just how people interact is fascinating. And I think that's always a challenge, because then you try to, again, you want to show somebody in their best light. You want to show their true moments that are unique to them.
Yep. Challenges
are good for me. That's
right.
What I love about this. So I think that helps me. Just looking at it that way, if that makes sense.
It does. No, it really does.
It's, again, there's no one size fits all. Everybody is just unique. And that's what I love about people and photographing them.
Yeah.
So,
okay.
And you try to find that uniqueness. And pull that out.
That's
what's cool.
I mean, because the uniqueness is what the wedding's all about. So, okay. So now this is called rapid fire. You're going to get 3 to 5 questions just thrown at you, each one with its own unique, and the answers don't need to be even more than a minute, but and I may even cut you off, right? Like I just need your instant reaction to each one of those questions.
Okay.
So and it's fun. Trust me. Relax. It'll be fun. You've been doing a great job, and we really appreciate that you came on. So first, favorite wedding location that you ever shot at? Describe it.
But I have so many.
Yeah, listen. Rapid fire means you got to have an answer.
Tappan Hill Mansion.
Okay.
Tarrytown.
Okay.
New York. Just because it was a stunning venue, it was very unique, very beautiful the way it was set up.
Yeah. What type of season was it?
It was hot. It was very hot. I was dying. I'm not gonna lie. I think it was about 90 plus. Definitely sweating.
Yeah.
But that's what you do.
Yep.
The challenge was trying to find, so the time of day that it was, the wedding started, it's like high noon.
Yep.
So I remember it being a challenge trying to find light for the formals that wasn't directly overhead, creating shadows. I found it inside and, in the shade, but outside of that, I remember that I took them back outside to do more formals during the reception because there was this beautiful sunset.
Yeah.
It was amazing.
Yep.
And I remember the photos from that. It was just stunning.
Yep.
And great couple.
Awesome.
So they had gone through a lot in very short amount of time. And I remember just wanting to capture every single moment they possibly have that was happy
Sure.
because they had such a rough couple of months. So, and they were great.
And see,
So yeah.
yeah, it's why we do what we do, right?
Yep.
So you led into the second question. There is there's a debate, and it's been out there for many years. Comfortable shoes versus nice professional customer shoes versus whatever you feel like wearing, clothes. Talk to me about what your position is on the day of a wedding, as far as like how you're shooting, knowing that you're going to be on your feet for 9 to 10 hours easily, right? So
Yep.
like how do you then how do you view the whole, hey, you can dress down to be comfortable versus you still have to be professional?
No, you have to be professional. That's number
Yep.
one. This is somebody's wedding. I, not to sound terrible, but I have gone to weddings just as a guest, and I remember seeing, the photographer shows up, and I do also remember seeing that, I'm like, that's very inappropriate,
Yeah. Yeah.
and I instantly think, oh gosh, I hope the photos are not the same.
Yeah.
Appearance is everything. That is how that couple's guests see you,
Yep.
right? That's how the couple sees you.
Yep.
And unfortunately, if it was any reaction like mine, then the next question would be like, well, are their photos going to look like this?
Yes.
Right. So you have to take yourself seriously. You have pride in your, the way you dress, your
Yep.
appearance. Show up ready to work in comfortable shoes, but they
Sure.
have to be presentable. And you also have to look at the venues. If you have a high end wedding, you're not going to show up.
Yep.
I've seen rompers of,
Yeah. Yeah.
I
Yep.
mean, no, that's
Yep.
not okay. Basically, it's like business casual. Or if you have to go a little dressier to fit the venue, of course, but it needs to be presentable. You're not going to have things showing that should not
Sure.
be.
Sure.
Wear comfortable shoes, but obviously they have to be presentable. They have to look the part. And then my rule of thumb is you have a pair of slippers in the car. So when you leave the wedding, you put those things on because trust me, your feet hurt.
Okay.
I'm just saying.
Okay. All right. Shelby, have you ever had anybody jump right in the middle of your scene when the bride and groom are coming down the aisle?
Yep. Oh, yes.
Wow, you said it like it happens way too often.
It does. Oh my goodness.
So what advice can we give to the rest of the people out there planning their wedding? Should they be sending out that email blast? Hey, I just want you to know, stay out of my aisle.
I have actually had, I have this one lady, it was during the ceremony, the bride was coming down the aisle. This nice little lady jumps in the middle of the aisle with her cell phone. Yep. Wanting that photo of the bride. I literally chased her halfway down the aisle. I'm not kidding. I ran right after her and I asked her politely, you need to move, because I was trying to get that one shot. I'm a huge fan of doing things in different perspectives.
Sure.
One shot being you get a low of the dress, like all the way down the aisle, right?
Yep.
Or the veil. The other one being more dead on. And then of course that's after I ran.
Yeah.
The whole way, because the first photo was her coming down. So then I go running around the aisle trying to get to the back. And then this is what happens. So of course now I'm running after this lady asking her, please move.
Yep.
So one word of advice that I would tell anybody, any guest, is, you could do, have whoever's officiating your wedding, ask people not to take photos or jump in the aisle as things are happening, because then that is the difference between that bride and groom, bride and bride, whoever getting their special moments.
Yeah.
That is despicable. All because one person just wasn't thinking. Well, guess what? Not everybody thinks about that stuff, right? And it's not their fault. They get excited, they get in the moment, and they're like, oh, right. That's all that was. The lady she wasn't mean. She wasn't a bad person. It was just that she just was excited. So if you put boundaries in place by having somebody say, okay, phones need to be away. Please, everybody stay in your seats. Let the photographers do the work. Then that's setting boundaries. Then that means your guests, they're reminded of that right from the start, right? So there should be nobody jumping in the aisle.
Yeah.
Because unfortunately, that did ruin one of those photos, and I was not happy.
I hear you. Okay.
I made up for it.
So it matters. So
yes, it does matter.
Okay.
And it's just having boundaries or being transparent in what your needs are. If you're the bride and groom that does not want anything like that happening, just say so.
Yeah.
And they'll understand. The same thing goes for, I'm sure everybody's had this issue with, like, you could have, let's say you have your couple and they want to take, the formal photos.
Yeah.
Other family and who else.
Sure.
Well, that's why you set it up in your timeline. You have a list.
Have it ahead
Why
of time.
is that? Because there's always going to
Efficiency.
be, yes.
Yep.
And there's always going to be a few people that come and say, oh, but I need this photo and I need that photo. Not because they're being mean. It's because they're excited.
Yeah.
They forget, right? They're just very excited for this couple and they want to celebrate with them and they want to take photos. Well, guess what? Okay. My approach would be, I would love to do that. Let's take that after, because I have this list I have to get through. So you always, deflect just kind of redirect. It's like, I have 2 kids, so
redirecting all the time.
Right.
Yes, understood.
You don't want to say no.
You
never say no. Never say no. What you say is, listen, we can absolutely do that, but let's just get through this list first, and then I'll come back to you. That way they know, and it's also, you got to be mindful that's still their wedding guest, right? You have to be respectful. So that's a great way to do that. And I have done that. I'll come back to them and take their photos, whatever they wanted. But in that moment, either a couple is getting frustrated because they just want to get through their shot list.
Yeah.
So it's great. Something that every couple, I feel, needs to keep in mind.
Yeah.
And definitely make sure that that's clear, no matter who your photographer is. Make sure they know your wishes. So you can act on, right?
Yeah. But your experience really shows through, like even just hearing this interview. So we're in our final 2 questions, so you can exhale.
Sorry.
No, you're doing great.
I rambled a little. I
so
apologize.
No, please. We've enjoyed having you on. So this one's a softball. It's easy. It's just more of a fun one, and then we'll get to the final key question for everyone to hear. But if either a past celebrity couple or upcoming celebrity couple, whose wedding would you want to shoot? It's meant to be a trick question because you didn't think about that, right?
No.
Do you have any that you're like, wow, that would just be really fun?
Honestly, I don't care. I really love every client that I get.
That's great.
I look forward to learning more about them.
Yeah.
So to me, this sounds probably very cheesy, but to me,
cheese is okay sometimes, just not music.
But they're the celebrity, right, of that day. So that's just the way I approach it. I wouldn't care if it was somebody famous versus somebody that is not. It doesn't matter to me because it's all the same. They are just as important. Yeah. I honestly mean that. Like, I really.
That's great. Yeah. Well, thank you. I like that. All right, Shelby. So in this situation, this is the key question that is asked on many of our meetings, and it's really this is going to be the question that we're going to pull out. So I'm going to pause here in a moment. I'm going to ask the question. And then this is that one that really kind of sets up the clients to be able to talk with you without talking with you. Let's just say you're busy with those kids you spoke of, and we can't bring you onto a meeting. Well, this is going to be that question. Shelby, there is an all-star standard, and you absolutely meet it. And you've been with us for a very long time because we align with our standards. However, let's just say that there was 5 other photographers that were thousands of dollars less. We'll just say that. And then the all-star photographer, Shelby, was thousands of dollars more. Why are they still picking you?
Because I'm awesome.
Okay, good. But I'm in.
Because I invest. I take the time to hear clients. I do put the work in. I want to know everything from special moments that they'd like captured, or who those special people are, in their guests. Whatever it is, I want to know about it. How they want things edited. I edit according to what they want. It's not about me. I don't have one. It's not this is all I do. No. I'm very well versed in editing. I can do pretty much anything, as long as it's conducive for the environment and, let's say, skin tones, right? I want to know about that because ultimately that is still their story. That's not my story. I want to make their story the best that I can make it. So I'm the artist, right? I have to create this product. So basically everything they're telling me, that's what I'm using to build this product. Yeah. I want it to be the best. I don't like failing. I'm not really that type of person. So for me, with weddings, there's no room for error. Yeah. That means you have to be spot on. Yeah. And that means you do your homework and you put all the work in.
One day, one time event.
Yeah, because it's one and done. Yeah. Like, you don't get any do-overs. Yeah. There's no such thing as I'm having a bad day. Well, you can have your bad day. You still got to suck it up and you have to get to work. And it has to matter because to them, that's all that matters, right? Yeah. So that's why I'd say choose me.
Awesome, awesome.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, All-Star Shelby Photography, thank you very much for coming on. Well done.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.